Reflection. My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. There comes a time in your life when you've knocked on doors that didn't open, pushed at gates that wouldn't move. Reflection. Cried at windows that stayed shut, and you wonder, Lord, when is my breakthrough coming? But here is the truth: when you trust God, you don't have to force the wrong door open. Reflection. You don't have to beg people to see your value. You don't have to compromise your dignity to be accepted. God Himself has already prepared the right door, the right opportunity. Reflection. The right season that belongs to you. And when it opens, no man, no devil, no circumstance can shut it. So stop wasting your energy knocking on doors that God never designed for you. Reflection. Stop exhausting yourself trying to fit in places you were never called to belong. Because if you trust God, He will lead you to the right door. And when it swings wide open, reflection, you'll walk into blessings you didn't even imagine. Not every door is your door. That one sentence carries a truth that, if you let it sink deep into your heart, reflection will change the way you see your life. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you walked down a street and every house had a front door? But you knew instinctively, reflection, that not every door was meant for you to enter. If you tried to walk into someone else's home uninvited, you'd get yourself into trouble. It's the same way with life. Reflection. Just because there are many doors around you doesn't mean you're supposed to walk through all of them. We live in a world where opportunities pop up everywhere. A job looks appealing. Reflection. A relationship seems exciting. A chance to invest sounds promising. But just because it's there doesn't mean it belongs to you. When you see an open door, reflection, your first reaction might be to rush inside. But wisdom tells you to pause, to ask, is this my door? Reflection. Or is this just a distraction dressed up like destiny? There are people right now stuck in situations they never should have walked into, not because God didn't have a plan for them, reflection, but because they chose to step through a door that was never theirs. Maybe it was a job that looked good on paper, but left them empty and drained every night. Reflection. Maybe it was a relationship that seemed promising at the start, but slowly began to suffocate the very essence of who they are. Maybe it was a shortcut, a quick way to success. Reflection. That ended up costing them their peace. Let me make it plain with an example. Imagine you're in a hotel. There are dozens of doors down the hallway, each leading to a room. Reflection. You've got your own key, but instead of going to your assigned room, you decide to try opening every door you pass. You jiggle the handles, knock on doors that don't belong to you. Reflection. And maybe even try to push your way into a few. What happens? You waste your energy, you annoy other guests, you get frustrated when doors don't open. But the truth is, all along, reflection, there was one specific door assigned to you, one room prepared with your name on it, one place where your key actually fits. That's how life works. You don't need to chase every door. Reflection, you don't need to compare your door to someone else's. You just need to find the one God designed for you. Sometimes the wrong door looks better. That's the trick of it. Reflection. The job that promises quick money might seem more appealing than the one that builds character and growth. Reflection. The relationship that gives you butterflies in the beginning might seem more thrilling than the steady love that nurtures your soul. Reflection. The opportunity that promises fame might look shinier than the quiet work that builds legacy. But what looks good isn't always God. Just because a door shines doesn't mean it's safe. Reflection. Just because it glitters doesn't mean it's gold. When you force your way through the wrong door, you often end up carrying burdens you were never meant to carry. Reflection. You end up paying costs you didn't budget for. Emotional costs, spiritual costs, even physical costs. How many times have we said, reflection, if only I had waited, if only I had trusted, if only I hadn't rushed through that door. But here's the beauty of it, even if you've walked through the wrong door before, reflection, God can still guide you back to the right one. His mercy is big enough to reroute you. His grace is strong enough to redirect your steps. Reflection. But wouldn't it be better to learn now that not every door is your door? To stop wasting years forcing your way into places where you don't belong. Reflection. To trust that if God doesn't allow you to walk through, it's because He has something better, something greater, something specifically tailored for you. Look at nature. Reflection. Not every seed grows in every soil. You can plant an apple seed in dry sand, but it will never become the tree it was meant to be. That doesn't mean the seed is bad. Reflection. It just means it wasn't planted in the right place. In the same way, you are not meant to thrive behind every door. You need the right environment, the right conditions. Reflection. The right atmosphere to bring out the greatness inside you. That's why you can't afford to envy other people's doors. Their door may look appealing, but it wasn't designed for you. Reflection. Think about Joseph in the scriptures. He had dreams of greatness, but not every door on his journey was meant to be his. He was thrown into a pit. That wasn't his door. Reflection. He was sold into slavery. That wasn't his door. He was locked in prison. That wasn't his door. Each wrong-looking situation was simply leading him to the right door, the palace door. Reflection, the place where his destiny would unfold. If Joseph had tried to force his way into another door, he would have missed the door God prepared for him. So here's the lesson: wait for your door. Reflection. Trust God with your future. Don't panic when others walk into rooms before you. Don't compare when someone else's door opens sooner. Don't lose faith when the hallway feels long and empty. Reflection, your door is coming, and when it opens, you'll see why the others had to stay shut. When you finally step through the right door, everything will make sense. Reflection, the pain of waiting will be replaced with joy. The confusion of the journey will be replaced with clarity. The struggles of the past will be replaced with strength. Reflection, you'll realize that the delays were not denials. They were protections. You'll understand that the closed doors weren't punishments. They were guidance. Not every door is your door. Reflection, so don't waste your life chasing what doesn't belong to you. Don't live in frustration trying to force what God has already closed. Instead, lift your eyes, trust His hand, and keep walking. Reflection, because when you reach the right door, you won't have to struggle. You won't have to force it. The key will fit, the handle will turn, and you'll know in your spirit. Reflection, this is where I belong. This is my season. This is my door. That's the power of trusting God. That's the wisdom of patience. Reflection, and that's the freedom of knowing not every door is your door. Closed doors are protection. At first, it doesn't feel that way. When a door shuts in front of you, it feels like rejection. Reflection, it feels like failure. It feels like somebody else walked away with what you wanted and you're left standing there with nothing. Reflection, but time has a way of showing you that the doors that closed weren't meant to harm you. They were meant to protect you. Reflection, what looks like disappointment in the moment can be the very thing that saves your life later. Think back to times in your past when you wanted something so badly. Reflection, maybe it was a job you thought was perfect. You polished your RA summary, prepared your answers, prayed before the interview, and still got the email that said, reflection, we've decided to move in another direction. You felt crushed, maybe even embarrassed. But months later, you hear that same company went bankrupt. Reflection, or that the department you applied to was cut, or that the boss you would have worked under made life miserable for everyone. Suddenly, reflection, the rejection that broke your heart now feels like divine protection. Or maybe it was a relationship. You thought that person was the one. You dreamed about a future together. Reflection, you invested your time, your emotions, maybe even your money. But then it ended, sometimes without explanation, sometimes with tears and pain. At the time, it felt like your world collapsed. Reflection, you couldn't understand why God allowed such a painful goodbye. But then you look back and realize that if you had stayed, you would have lost yourself. If you had forced it, reflection, you would have missed a chance to meet someone who truly honored and valued you. That heartbreak was not a punishment, it was protection. Closed doors are God's way of saying, reflection, I see what you can't see. Imagine standing in front of a building and you only see the door. You don't know what's happening behind it. It might look sturdy, beautiful, even inviting. Reflection, but inside could be a collapsing ceiling, a dangerous trap, or a fire you don't know about. And because God sees behind the door, He closes it before you walk in. Reflection, what feels like rejection is actually a loving Father saying, reflection, I won't let you hurt yourself by stepping into something that looks good but isn't good for you. Let me give you a simple daily example. Think of traffic. You're late for work. Reflection, rushing down the road when suddenly the light turns red. You slam on the brakes, frustrated because you just missed it. You sit there angry at the delay. But then, a few blocks ahead, reflection, you see an accident that happened just moments before. If you had gotten that green light, you might have been right in the middle of it. That red light was not rejection. It was protection. Reflection, that small delay may have saved your life. The same thing happens in life. We see closed doors as obstacles, but God uses them as shields. We pray, God, reflection, open every door for me. But sometimes the better prayer is, God, close every door that's not from you. Because what you don't know can hurt you, but what God knows can save you. Reflection, when you learn to see closed doors this way, it changes how you respond to disappointment. Instead of collapsing in despair, you start saying, if this didn't open, reflection, it must not have been for me. If this opportunity slipped away, then God must have something greater. If this person walked out, reflection, then they weren't part of my destiny. You move from frustration to faith, from bitterness to trust. One of the hardest things is watching others walk through doors that stayed shut for you. Reflection, you see someone else get the job, someone else marry the person you thought was yours, someone else move into the house you wanted, And you ask, why not me? Reflection. Lord. But what if their open door would have been your downfall? What if what works for them would have wounded you? You cannot measure your destiny by someone else's doorway. Reflection. God custom builds your path, and that means some doors must close so that you can arrive at the one He designed for you. Think about children. A parent locks cabinets with sharp knives. Reflection. Puts gates at the top of stairs, hides cleaning supplies. To the child, it feels restrictive. They may cry when they can't open the cabinet or run down the stairs. Reflection. But the parent isn't being cruel. They're being protective. They know what the child doesn't. Reflection. They know what danger lies behind that closed door. If earthly parents protect their children this way, how much more does God protect us by shutting doors we're not ready for? Reflection. Well, that would harm us. Yes, it hurts when a door closes. It stings when dreams are delayed. But if you can hold on long enough, you will see the bigger picture. Reflection. You'll look back and thank God for every no, every delay, every rejection, because you'll realize those moments saved you from battles you weren't meant to fight. Reflection. Closed doors don't mean the end of your story. They mean a redirection toward a better chapter. They mean you are being spared from lesser things so that you can receive greater things. Reflection. They mean that God loves you too much to let you settle for what looks right but isn't right. So the next time you face a closed door, don't fall apart. Don't assume God forgot you. Reflection. Don't think you're being punished. Instead, lift your head and say, thank you, Lord, for protecting me from what I couldn't see. Reflection. Thank you for loving me enough to shut what wasn't meant for me. Thank you for guiding me toward the right door at the right time. Closed doors are not your enemy. They are your shield. Reflection. They are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of God's care. They are not endings. They are preparations for better beginnings. And when you truly understand that reflection, you stop fighting the closed doors and start trusting the one who holds the keys. Timing matters. We live in a culture that celebrates speed, fast results, quick money, reflection, instant answers. Everything around us screams that faster is better. But in the kingdom of God, timing is just as important as the promise itself. You can have the right dream, reflection, the right opportunity, even the right door, but if it opens before its time, it can end up harming you instead of helping you. The right door at the wrong time is still the wrong door. Reflection. Think about fruit on a tree. You can see a beautiful apple hanging there, but if you pluck it too early, it's bitter, hard, and not ready for you to enjoy. The same apple, reflection, if left to ripen in its season, becomes sweet, nourishing, and exactly what it was meant to be. It's not that the apple was wrong, it was just too soon. Reflection. How many times do we rush into situations because they look ready when in truth they are still ripening? Timing makes all the difference. Consider daily life examples. Reflection. A young student may dream of becoming a doctor. The dream is real, the calling is true. But if they walk into an operating room without years of training, study, and practice, reflection, the dream becomes a disaster. Not because they're not meant to be a doctor, but because the timing isn't right. Preparation must come before fulfillment. Imagine building a house. Reflection. If you pour the walls before the foundation is fully set, the structure will collapse. Not because the design is wrong, but because the timing was ignored. Sometimes, reflection, the delay is not denial, it is development. God uses time to build strength in you, to refine your character, to prepare your heart for the weight of the blessing He is about to release. Reflection, a door that opens too soon can crush you, because you might not be ready to carry the responsibility that comes with it. Reflection, we often see the beauty of the blessing, but forget the weight of the blessing. Doors don't just bring opportunities, they bring responsibilities, pressures, and tests. Reflection. That's why God waits until the right time. Think of a child learning to drive. They might be eager to sit behind the wheel at age 12. They've seen their parents drive. Reflection. They've played racing games, and they believe they're ready. But a loving parent doesn't hand over the keys, not because the child isn't capable of driving someday. Reflection. But because the timing isn't safe yet. If that car is given too soon, it could be fatal. The same car, a few years later, becomes a blessing and a tool for independence. Reflection. The only difference is timing. Timing is also about alignment. Sometimes God has to line up people, places, and resources before He can open your door. You may be ready, reflection, but the people assigned to help you are not yet in place. The connections you'll need are still being prepared. The location you'll step into is still being arranged. Like a master conductor, reflection, God is orchestrating every instrument, every note, every voice, and until it's all in harmony, the music can't begin. You might feel delayed, reflection, but you're not forgotten. You're being positioned for perfect alignment. Another daily picture, planting a seed. You bury it in the soil, water it, and wait. Reflection. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust that in the right season it will sprout. If you demand fruit too soon, you'll only find frustration. Growth takes time. Reflection, seasons have to shift. Sunlight has to come, rain has to fall. In the same way, your life requires seasons. You can't skip spring and rush into harvest. Timing matters. Reflection, sometimes the waiting period is where your strength is built. Muscles don't grow instantly. They grow through resistance, repetition, and time. In the same way, your faith, patience, reflection, and endurance are built in the waiting room of life. That's why delays hurt but also help. They strip away pride, they teach you humility, they strengthen your trust. Reflection, you learn that you're not the one holding the clock, God is. And when you surrender to His timing, you discover peace even in the waiting. Reflection, think back to moments when you wanted something sooner. Maybe you wanted to be married years ago, but if it had happened then, you wouldn't have been ready to handle the commitment. Reflection, maybe you wanted success in your career earlier, but if it had come then, pride might have ruined you. Maybe you prayed for a bigger platform, but without the character to sustain it. Reflection, the platform would have destroyed you. Looking back, you realize that God's timing saved you from yourself. It takes humility to accept that God knows better than we do. We think we're ready, reflection, but He sees the cracks we can't see. We think the stage is prepared, but He knows the curtain isn't ready to rise. Timing is His way of making sure that when you step through the right door, reflection, you will not just enter, it will last. Because blessings that come too soon can fade as quickly as they arrive, but blessings that come on time endure. So if the door hasn't opened yet, reflection, don't panic, don't assume you've missed it. Don't let impatience push you into places you're not ready for. Trust the process. Trust the preparation. Reflection, trust the one who holds the calendar of your destiny. Just as the sun rises at its appointed hour, just as the tides move in rhythm with the moon, just as the seasons change on schedule, reflection. So will your door open at the right time. And when it does, you'll see why you had to wait. You'll see how the lessons of the waiting prepared you for the weight of the blessing. Reflection, you'll see how the delays brought you into alignment with the right people and the right opportunities. Reflection, you'll see that what you thought was wasted time was actually invested time. Time spent shaping you, refining you, reflection, and building you into the person who could walk through that door with confidence and strength. Timing matters. It is not a detail. It is the very design of destiny. Reflection. And when you trust God's timing, you stop rushing, you stop comparing, you stop forcing, you rest, knowing that when the moment is right, no power on earth can keep the door closed. Reflection. The right door will open not too early, not too late, but in the exact moment God ordained. Your faith is the key. Life will present you with many doors. Reflection, and sometimes those doors won't open with effort, connections, or even talent. You can push, pull, knock, and still feel like nothing is moving. Reflection. That's because some doors are not designed to respond to human strength. They respond only to faith. Faith is not just believing in something you can see. Reflection. Faith is trusting in what you cannot see, standing firm when the ground shakes, and declaring that what God promised is already yours even when the door is still shut. Picture this. Reflection. You're standing in front of a locked door. You don't have the key in your hand, but you know the owner promised you access. If you truly trust that promise, you don't walk away. Reflection. You don't panic. You wait with expectation because you believe the one who made the promise will also deliver the key. Reflection. That's what faith does. It keeps you standing in front of doors others walked away from, believing that in God's timing, the door will open. Faith doesn't look logical. Reflection. And that's why many people give up before they see their breakthrough. Imagine a farmer planting seeds in the ground. To anyone watching, it looks foolish. Reflection. The farmer buries good seed in dirt and walks away. Days pass, nothing happens. Weeks pass, still nothing visible. Yet the farmer doesn't lose hope. Why? Reflection. Because he knows something is happening beneath the surface. His faith tells him that though he cannot see it, growth is taking place. In the same way, reflection. Faith tells you that while the door may look locked, something is shifting on the other side. God is arranging, preparing, aligning things you cannot see. Reflection. Daily life shows us this truth all the time. Think of electricity. You flip a switch and the light comes on. But before you flipped it, the power was already flowing. Reflection. You didn't see the wires in the walls. You didn't see the current traveling, but you believed that if you pressed the switch, the power would respond. That's faith. Reflection. You act on what you cannot see because you trust the source behind it. Faith is not passive. It doesn't mean you sit with folded arms waiting for something to happen. Faith is active. Reflection. It shows up in your attitude, in your decisions, in your persistence. When you truly believe that God is in control, you walk differently. You talk differently. reflection. You face closed doors not with despair, with expectation. You stop saying it will never happen, and you start saying it hasn't happened yet, reflection. But I know my time is coming. That shift in mindset is the key that unlocks doors. Look at people who've achieved breakthroughs in their lives. Many of them weren't the most skilled, reflection, the most talented or the most connected. What they had was faith. They refused to quit when others gave up. They refused to let setbacks define them. They held on, reflection, believing that if they stayed faithful, the door would eventually open. And when it did, they stepped into blessings that far exceeded what they imagined. Think of a child learning to walk. Reflection, they fall again and again. Their legs wobble, their balance fails, and yet they keep trying. Why? Because somewhere deep inside, even without understanding the process, reflection, they have faith that walking is possible. That faith keeps them trying until they succeed. Your life works the same way. Faith is what keeps you trying after failure. Reflection, faith is what makes you stand up after disappointment. Faith is what keeps you knocking on the door, even when it hasn't opened yet. Reflection, sometimes God allows the door to remain shut until your faith grows strong enough to handle what's behind it. If He opened it too soon, you might walk through in doubt, in fear and insecurity. Reflection, but when you've been strengthened by faith, you walk through with confidence, with gratitude, with endurance. Reflection, faith doesn't just open the door, it prepares you to live on the other side of it. It's easy to have faith when things are smooth, but real faith shows up when everything looks impossible. Reflection, when the doctor gives a negative report, but you still believe healing is possible. When your finances are low, but you still tithe and trust God will provide. When people doubt you, reflection, but you still step forward with boldness. That's when faith becomes the key that unlocks miracles. Think about the story of someone applying for countless jobs. Each rejection letter arrives, reflection, but instead of giving up, they keep applying, keep preparing, keep showing up. Why? Because faith tells them that one yes is coming. And sure enough, when the right door opens, reflection, it erases the memory of all the rejections. Faith kept them moving until the right opportunity arrived. Every day you exercise faith in simple ways. You set an alarm at night, reflection, believing you'll wake up in the morning. You step onto an airplane, trusting the pilot you've never met. You put food in the oven, believing heat you can't see will transform it into a meal. Reflection. If you can trust these things, how much more should you trust the God who created time, space, and life itself? Faith in Him is never misplaced. Reflection. So the next time you stand in front of a closed door, don't let frustration consume you. Reach for the key of faith. Say to yourself, I may not see it, but I believe it. I may not feel it, reflection, but I trust it. I may not understand it, but I know God is working. That kind of faith can unlock doors no man can shut. Your effort has limits. Your connections have limits. Reflection, even your wisdom has limits. But faith is limitless because it taps into God's power. And when you walk by faith, the impossible becomes possible. Reflection. Doors that look sealed forever swing open with ease. Opportunities that seemed out of reach suddenly come knocking. Mountains that stood in your way crumble before your steps. Faith is the key. Reflection. Without it, you stand outside, frustrated and bitter. With it, you walk through doors into blessings beyond your imagination. And the beauty is this: faith is available to everyone. Reflection. You don't need to be the strongest, the richest, or the smartest. You just need to believe. You just need to trust that the one who promised is faithful to perform. Obedience positions. Reflection. You can pray, you can dream, you can hope, but without obedience, you remain out of alignment with the doors God has prepared for you. Obedience is not about rules, it's about positioning. Reflection. It's about moving your feet in the direction God is leading, even when you don't fully understand the journey. Reflection. Sometimes the reason the door hasn't opened yet is not because it isn't ready, but because you're not standing in front of it. Reflection. Obedience gets you to the place where the right door can be found. Think of a navigation system in a car. You can type in the destination, but if you don't follow the turns, reflection, you'll never arrive. The system can keep saying, recalculating, but until you align your car with the instructions, you'll stay lost. In life, reflection, obedience is how you align yourself with God's directions. You may not see the whole map. You may not understand why the route feels longer or harder. Reflection. But if you keep following the prompting, stop here, wait there, turn now, you eventually arrive exactly where you're meant to be. Daily life gives us countless reminders. Reflection. A doctor tells a patient to take the medicine every morning. The medicine is powerful, but if the patient refuses to follow the instructions, the cure won't work. Reflection. A coach tells an athlete to practice a certain drill to strengthen their game. The advice is proven, but if the athlete decides to ignore it, their talent never reaches full potential. Reflection, the same is true spiritually. God gives instructions, sometimes small, sometimes difficult, but they are never random. Reflection, they are steps of obedience that position you for the door He intends you to walk through. Obedience often feels inconvenient. It means letting go of your own agenda, your own timing. Reflection, your own way of doing things. It might mean forgiving someone who hurt you, even when you'd rather hold on to anger. It might mean giving generously when you feel like holding tight. Reflection, it might mean walking away from a relationship that looks promising but doesn't honor your values. Each act of obedience feels costly in the moment, but it's really an investment. Reflection, you are trading temporary comfort for long-term destiny. Think about Abraham, who was told to leave his home, his land, his family, and go to a place God would show him. Reflection, he wasn't given the full map, just the first step. Had he refused, had he chosen comfort over obedience, he would have missed the door to becoming the father of many nations. Reflection, obedience positioned him for blessings that stretched beyond his lifetime. That's how powerful obedience is. It doesn't just impact you, it impacts generations after you. Reflection, imagine a farmer again. He knows that in order to reap a harvest, he must plant in the right season, water at the right time, and pull weeds consistently. Reflection, if he decides to plant in winter when the ground is frozen, or if he ignores watering, no matter how fertile the soil is, his harvest will fail. Reflection, obedience to the rhythms of nature positions him for abundance. In the same way, obedience to God's instructions positions you for doors to open at the right moment. Reflection, some people pray for opportunities but ignore the small steps God asks of them. They want the promotion but refuse to be faithful in their current job. Reflection, they want financial increase but ignore the principles of discipline and stewardship. They want deeper relationships but resist the call to be honest and kind. They stand at the wrong door. Reflection, frustrated, wondering why it won't open. Obedience isn't always about dramatic moments. It's often about small, consistent steps that align your heart and habits with the right path. Reflection, think about how obedience works in traffic. If you drive through red lights and ignore stop signs, you might still reach your destination, but you'll put yourself and others in danger. Reflection, obedience to the rules of the road doesn't limit you. It protects you. It keeps you safe and allows you to reach your goal without unnecessary harm. In life, reflection, obedience to God's leading works the same way. It isn't meant to hold you back. It's meant to keep you safe until you arrive. Obedience also requires trust. Reflection, many times you won't see the reason behind the instruction until after you've followed it. Like a child told by a parent not to touch the stove. At first, it feels like restriction, but later, reflection, the child learns that it was protection. Similarly, when God says, wait, turn, or let go, He's not trying to punish you. He's trying to protect and position you. Reflection, what feels like delay is often the setup for destiny. One of the hardest parts of obedience is that it rarely makes sense in the moment. Reflection, think of someone who feels a strong urge to turn down a road they never take, only to discover later that they avoided an accident. Or someone who obeys the nudge to call a friend. Reflection, only to learn that the friend was in despair and needed that call. Reflection, these small acts of obedience show us that what doesn't make sense to us in the moment often makes perfect sense in the bigger picture. Doors don't just open because you desire them. Reflection, they open because you're in the right place at the right time with the right posture of heart. Obedience ensures that. It trains you to move with God's rhythm. Reflection, it keeps you in step with the flow of His plan. And when the moment comes, you're not scrambling to get into position. You're already standing exactly where the door will open. Reflection, so when life feels confusing, when you're waiting for the next chapter, ask yourself, am I obeying the small steps God has already given me? Am I forgiving, loving, serving, giving, trusting? Reflection, because those small acts of obedience today are aligning you with doors that will change your tomorrow. Obedience is not about perfection, it's about direction. Reflection, it's about choosing each day to align yourself a little more with what you know is right. And in that alignment, you'll find that doors you once chased begin to open naturally. Reflection, because obedience doesn't just get you through the door, it gets you to the door. And once you're there, you'll discover that everything you sacrificed, everything you surrendered, reflection was worth it for the life waiting on the other side. God knows what you cannot see. This truth has the power to shift the way you think about every closed door, every delayed answer, reflection, and every unexpected turn in your life. So often, we want the entire picture before we take the first step. We want clarity before obedience, details before trust, certainty before faith, reflection. But life doesn't work that way because God operates from a higher vantage point. He sees the mountain while we're still staring at the valley. Reflection, He sees the traffic jam miles ahead while we're only looking at the green light in front of us. He sees the detours, the danger, the opportunities. reflection, and the hidden blessings long before we even know they exist. Think about flying in an airplane. When you're sitting on the ground, all you see are the walls of buildings, the noise of traffic, reflection, the confusion of streets. But when the plane takes off and rises above the city, everything looks different. You see the patterns, the layout, the bigger picture. Reflection. What felt chaotic from the ground makes sense from the sky. God sees your life from that higher perspective. While you're stuck in the moment, reflection, wondering why things aren't going the way you planned, He already knows the outcome. He knows why one door closed, why another is delayed, and why some paths don't make sense right now. Reflection. Take a moment to think about a time in your life when something didn't go your way, only for you to look back later and realize it was protection. Reflection. Maybe you didn't get that job you thought was perfect, but later found out the company collapsed. Maybe a relationship ended, and at first it broke you. Reflection. But later you discovered it freed you to meet someone who truly respected and valued you. Maybe an opportunity slipped through your hands, but years later, reflection, you realized it would have taken you away from your true calling. In those moments, it's easy to feel rejected, but what looks like rejection is often redirection. God knows what you cannot see. Reflection. A child can't always understand why a parent says no. The child may cry, protest, or feel angry, but the parent sees what the child cannot. Reflection. When a parent refuses to let their child eat candy for breakfast, it isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. When they say no to playing near the road, it isn't punishment, it's protection. Reflection. In the same way, God sometimes closes doors we desperately want to walk through. He sees the potholes in the road, the danger around the corner, the disappointment waiting inside that opportunity. Reflection. We see only the candy in front of us. He sees the sickness it will cause. We see only the fun in the street. He sees the speeding car coming. His vision is clearer than ours. Reflection. Life is full of blind spots. When you're driving, you check your mirrors, but there are areas you cannot see without turning your head. That's why cars now come with blind spot sensors. Reflection, because the human eye is limited. In the journey of life, we all have blind spots, things we cannot see about our circumstances, about people, about timing. Reflection, but God is your ultimate blind spot detector. He knows what's hiding in the corners of your vision. He knows what's waiting down the road. He knows when the timing isn't right. Reflection, and He'll slow you down to protect you. Think about Joseph in the Bible, who was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the ground level, reflection, it looked like his life was falling apart. If you had asked Joseph in those moments, he probably couldn't see the bigger picture. Reflection. But God knew what Joseph couldn't see, that every closed door was moving him closer to the palace, where he would one day save nations from famine. Reflection. What looked like disaster was actually destiny. That's how God works. He writes chapters you cannot understand until the book is finished. Reflection. You might be praying for something right now that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's a career breakthrough, a relationship healing, or provision. Reflection. And the silence feels like God has forgotten you. But what if the delay isn't denial? What if God is setting things in order that you cannot see? Reflection. Imagine asking for rain before the soil has been tilled. What good would it do? The rain would only wash away the seed. Sometimes God withholds the rain. Reflection. Not because He doesn't want to bless you, because He knows the soil isn't ready. He knows what you cannot see. Daily life gives us countless reminders of this. Reflection. Imagine missing a bus or a flight and feeling frustrated, only to discover later that avoiding that timing kept you safe from an accident. Think about times when a plan fell apart. Reflection. Only for a better opportunity to arise shortly after. These aren't coincidences, they are glimpses of how divine wisdom works behind the scenes. We see the disappointment. Reflection. God sees the protection. We see the delay. God sees the preparation. Trusting that God knows what you cannot see is not easy, because it requires surrender. Reflection. It means letting go of the illusion of control. It means accepting that you don't always need the full map, because the one leading you already sees the destination. Reflection. Just like a passenger on a ship doesn't question every turn the captain makes, you don't need to question every detail of God's guidance. The captain knows the waters. Reflection. The captain knows the storms. The captain knows how to steer you safely to shore. So the next time a door closes, instead of asking, why me? Start asking, reflection, what is God protecting me from that I cannot see? When an opportunity doesn't work out, instead of sinking into despair, reflection, remind yourself that there's a bigger picture you don't yet understand. When timing feels delayed, remember that it's often because something greater is being prepared. Reflection. God's vision reaches farther than your own. He sees tomorrow while you're still living in today. You may not always understand the path you're on. Reflection. But one day you'll look back and see the pattern. One day you'll realize that every closed door was a blessing in disguise. Every detour was protection. Every delay was preparation, reflection. God knows what you cannot see, and if you trust that, you can walk with peace, even in uncertainty. You can wait with patience, even in delay. You can move forward with faith, reflection, even without all the answers, because when the door finally opens, you'll see that the timing, the path, and the outcome were perfect all along. When the right door opens, no one can shut it. Reflection. That truth is both a promise and a reassurance, because so often in life, we walk around worried about who might stand in our way, who might block our progress. Reflection. Who might try to take what belongs to us. We think if someone doesn't like us, if a boss overlooks us, if a friend betrays us, or if people doubt us, then somehow our future is in their hands. Reflection. But the reality is, when God opens a door for you, it does not matter who is against you. No one can close what He has decreed open. Think about it in practical life. Reflection. Imagine you've been working hard at your job, quietly doing what's right, and someone else gets the promotion. At first it feels unfair, maybe even crushing. But then months later, reflection, a bigger opportunity comes your way, one that's more aligned with your gifts, one that sets you on a path you never even considered. Reflection. That's what it looks like when the right door opens. It doesn't need permission from anyone else. It doesn't need validation from people. And it doesn't bow to human opinion. Reflection. It opens because it was designed for you. Sometimes people will try to close doors in your face. They might gossip, they might scheme, they might withhold opportunities. Reflection. Thinking they're stopping you. But here's the beauty: human hands are too small to block what God has ordained. If someone closes a door in malice, God can open a better one in power. Reflection. If someone tries to push you out, God can set a table for you in the very presence of those who doubted you. The right door doesn't need human approval. Reflection, because divine authority is higher than human influence. Think of it like a key card to a secure building. You can stand outside the door, you can push, you can knock. Reflection. You can even argue with the security guard. But if you don't have the key card, the door won't open. Only the one with the right access can unlock it. In the same way, when God holds the key, reflection, no one else can manipulate the lock. People may try to imitate, but they don't have access to what belongs to you. Reflection, they don't carry the authority to shut down the opportunities written with your name on them. Life often feels like a series of closed doors. You might face rejection letters, unanswered calls, reflection, or missed chances. But those moments don't define your destiny. Closed doors are not failures, they are redirections. The wrong door closing makes space for the right door to swing wide. Reflection. And when the right one opens, it will feel different, it won't be forced, it won't demand you compromise who you are. It won't require endless begging or pleading. Reflection. It will align so naturally that you'll know it's meant for you. Think about David, the shepherd boy, who wasn't even invited when his brothers lined up to be considered for kingship. Reflection. People didn't see him as qualified, yet God had already prepared a door no one could close. Samuel poured the oil, and David was chosen not because of man's opinion, reflection, but because God had decided. When it was David's time, no brother, no doubt, no rejection could stand in the way. The same is true for you. When it's your time, the door will open, reflection, and no voice of doubt can shut it. Everyday life gives us smaller examples of this. Maybe you've experienced being late to something, thinking you missed out, reflection, only to discover the timing actually saved you. Maybe you've been passed over for something you thought was yours, but years later realized it wasn't even close to what you truly needed. Reflection. That's because the right door has a divine fingerprint. It doesn't just open, it stays open. Opportunities that demand you constantly fight to hold them aren't the right ones. Reflection. Opportunities that crumble when someone whispers against you aren't the right ones. When God opens the right door, it stands firm regardless of outside pressure. Reflection. Imagine trying to open a door that's locked from the other side. You rattle it, you push it, you even try to peek through the cracks, but it stays closed. Reflection. That's what life feels like when you chase the wrong doors. But then one day you walk up to another door, and with the lightest push, it swings wide open. No force, no fight. Reflection. No striving, just access. That's how you know the difference. The right door doesn't require you to break it down, it welcomes you in. People may question how you got there. Reflection. They may look at your background, your past mistakes, your lack of credentials, and wonder why the door opened for you. But that's the point. It's not about reflection. It's about the God who opens doors that no man can shut. Your story won't always make sense to others because it wasn't written by them. Reflection. It was written by the one who saw your potential long before anyone else believed in you. Even in moments when it feels like opposition is strong, remember this: reflection, resistance cannot shut the right door. Delays cannot cancel it. Doubt cannot block it. Jealousy cannot close it. What God ordains is unstoppable. You may face battles, reflection, but those battles are only there to prove the strength of the door you're about to walk through. So the next time you feel fear creeping in, fear that someone will ruin your chances, reflection, fear that your background will disqualify you, fear that you'll miss what's meant for you, remind yourself of this truth: when the right door opens, no one can shut it. Not your enemies, reflection, not your past, not your mistakes, not your insecurities. That door will remain open because the one who opened it holds the keys to your future. One day, reflection, you will look back and thank God for every door that stayed shut, every person who tried to block you, and every moment you thought you were overlooked. Because all along, reflection, He was guiding you to the right door, the one that no power on earth could close. And when you walk through it, you'll realize that every delay, every rejection, reflection, every detour was worth it. For that door was waiting just for your family. Let me tell you, life will present you with many doors. Some doors are shiny, some are loud, some are tempting, reflection, but not every door is meant for you. The enemy knows how to decorate a doorway to make it look like destiny, when really it's a distraction. Reflection, that's why you can't live by sight. You've got to live by faith. You've got to trust that if God closes a door, He's saving you from something that your eyes can't yet see. Reflection, you cried when that relationship ended. You were frustrated when that job didn't call you back. You were confused when that deal fell through. But what if God was protecting you? Reflection. What if that closed door was not rejection, but preparation for something greater? See, sometimes you think you're losing, but really you're being positioned. Reflection. Sometimes God shuts one door so He can open another that leads to your destiny. Oh, hear me today. Don't try to break down the doors God has locked. Reflection. Don't waste your tears begging for people to let you in. Don't waste your years running after opportunities that were never yours. Reflection. The right door doesn't need you to force it open. The right door will swing wide when the time is right. Because the same God who holds the key to your heart holds the keys to your destiny. Reflection. But here's the challenge. Can you wait? Can you trust Him long enough not to settle for the counterfeit door? The enemy will show you shortcuts, fast tracks, reflection, glittering entrances that seem easier than waiting. But those shortcuts come with chains. Those fast tracks come with traps. You've got to believe that if God hasn't opened it yet, reflection, is because He's still preparing it or preparing you. Faith is the master key. Not your RA summe, not your connections, not your hustle. Faith. Faith that says, Lord, reflection, I don't understand it, but I'll trust You. Lord, I don't see the way, but I know You're leading me. Lord, this door is shut. Reflection, but I believe You got a better one. And when you carry that kind of faith, you stop panicking, you stop forcing, you stop begging. You wait with confidence, reflection, because you know your Father is in control. And when the right door opens, hear me, it won't be halfway. It won't be a crack, it won't be unstable. It will be wide, it will be clear, reflection, and it will be undeniable. The right people will be there, the right resources will be there, the right timing will be there. Because when God opens a door, reflection, He doesn't just open it, He equips you to walk through it. Somebody listening to me right now, you've been staring at a closed door too long, reflection. You've been wasting your joy crying over who walked away. You've been losing sleep wondering why it didn't work out. But I came to tell you, stop looking at what's shut. Reflection. Stop mourning over what left. Lift your eyes. There's another door ahead of you, a greater door, a God-ordained door that's about to open in your life. When that door opens, reflection, you won't have to compromise to walk through it. You won't have to beg anyone to validate you. You won't have to lose yourself to keep it. Because what God opens, no man can shut. Reflection. So trust Him, trust His timing, trust His plan, trust His power. The right door is coming, and when it opens, you'll know it wasn't your strength. It was His favor. Reflection. It wasn't your effort, it was His hand. And when you walk through it, you'll look back and say, now I understand why the other doors had to close. Now I understand why the answer was no. Reflection. Now I understand why the wait was necessary. So don't give up. Don't get bitter. Don't settle. The right door, God's door, is worth waiting for.